Thank you for
Good
having
morning.
me. Morning to you.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
Who says I'm gay? And then what was their mouths? Yeah, pale power. We have returned to the 40s to discover the roots of success. Speaking of roots, how about those African kids, huh?
You are gay. You are.
you are gay. $17 to poop and pee all over these women. Oh look, it's a yellow-headed, pink-tailed booby. Ooh, whoa. I don't want to suck that guy's dick. Look at him. He's got the little belly. He's got the grown man tits. What the hell? Hey. It's time for fun facts. And then what is this? This is a video? Oh, they're Muslim. I see. Hello, and welcome to Pandering Hour. I am your host, Anthony Martin, and today on Pandering Hour, we are going to be discussing Nepal. For those of you watching the YouTube version, I'm up on a mountaintop with the Iceman. He's up there on Mount Everest doing Tai Chi. We're going to talk about it. Nepal ranked number 144 on the Human Development Index, is a Asian country, tiny Asian country. I'm pretty sure we're just gonna jump straight into it. I'm pretty sure this place is also, there's like an issue with like the neighboring countries fighting with it, like Tibet. Is Tibet different? I really don't know much other than that it's in the Himalayas. Nepal war. Let me see. Nepal, or Iceman. Iceman goes to Nepal. Okay. So, Nepal, first thing I think of when I think of Nepal is I'm going to think of Mount Everest. Right? It's in Nepal. The China-Nepal border runs across its summit point. Good. Nope. Sorry, that was an ad. That's not what I wanted. Let's see. Wait, so how big is Nepal? Also, I'm so sorry. I just ate a whole lot of black British food. It's from a place called Kingston Kitchen, which if you think there's a British guy running that place, you're out of your fucking mind. It's so good. So good. Just fantastic. I had a fried chicken eggs Benedict, and I had a bunch of pancakes. So I am full. Oh, and some of you can see I got that. I did buy the meme. I got that dog in me t-shirt. I bought it. I sure did. I'm buying a lot of like Walmart type shirts. Like I guess those kinds of shirts are cool now. At least to me. There's a lot of really good ones. But it's just funny how I've come full circle where like my mom would buy me like really awful t-shirts, like I'm a gamer kind of like t-shirts, and I hated that. I hated those t-shirts, especially because I was a fat kid. I'm just like, no, I look like what everybody hates. Um, and now I'm buying the shirts for myself, and I'm like, whatever. This shirt's cool, dude. Get out of my face. Nepal. Oh, India. So in between India and China. So Mount Everest. I'm going to do Mount Everest fun facts. In addition... Oh, not now. Alright, let's jump into some facts about Nepal, though. About nipple, as I like to call it. Okay. Nepal, situated between India and China in South Asia, boasts a diverse range of landscapes, from towering summits of the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, to the lush lowland plains of the Terai region. The landscape displays significant variations. These diverse terrains give rise to various weather patterns and environments, fostering the flourishing of various plant and animal species. In the midst of this breathtaking natural beauty, Nepal's mixed cultures always stand out. Nepal has 142 ethnic groups who speak multiple languages and have unique cultures and traditions. Nepal's strength lies in its unity in diversity. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Nepal's strength lies in unity and diversity. The Nepalese Civil War up until 2006. Up until 2006. Wow. Unity. Where people from different backgrounds come together to celebrate festivals, traditions, and rituals. This mix of geography, language, caste, and diversity makes Nepal a land of enchantment. Caste is that's a weird one because caste is like your richness level. Like how well off are you? How blue is your blood? How much money does your family have? Therefore, traveling in Nepal is an unforgettable journey that offers transformative experiences that enrich the mind, body, and soul. Let's look up some tourism stories to Nepal. Eight highest peaks in Nepal among the world's 14 highest peaks. Okay. Mount Everest. Land of Temple. Nepal is renowned for its rich religious heritage, and the city is filled with numerous temples, shrines, and religious monuments that hold immense cultural and spiritual significance. It's often referred to as the Land of Temples, including Hindu and Buddhist temples. Nepal has 10 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Among 8 of them are cultural heritage sites. Similarly, the capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, is known as the City of Temples due to its arrays of historic and intricately designed temples. So I'm going to look up Kathmandu. And then we're going to lock in for a second. We're going to lock it. I'm going to lock in for just one second. Like I said, I just ate a full-ass breakfast. I've also been awake. I was awake for almost 24 hours. I woke up at 2 a.m. yesterday. Didn't get to sleep until midnight. I just got 8 hours of sleep. I don't feel good. I don't feel good one bit. And all of that shit that I just ate is making my stomach go like, dude, what the fuck? Like I'm not doing good. I'm not doing good. Ugh. Like I just feel sweat everywhere. Like the front of my thighs. But the front of my thighs never sweat. On the inside or on the back, for sure. Front of like my quads? Why are my quads sweating? What is happening? Nothing that caffeine can't solve. Drug yourself. Make yourself productive. Do it. Kathmandu, huh? Kathmandu. Let's take a quick look at this. Wow. Look, let's take a look at this. Wow. Is this where Doctor Strange went in Doctor Strange? Before he was Doctor Strange? Yeah, this is very Doctor Strange like. Oh, you know what would be interesting to look into? The source of the mandala. What is that? Have you guys seen these mandalas? If you know anyone who like does drugs, they usually have one of these. There's something about drugs that are linked with this. I think it's just trippy to look at. But they're very intricate mandalas. Yeah, the sacred geometry. The mandala first appeared during the 1st century BCE in India, presenting itself through Buddhist art. Over the next couple of centuries, Buddhist missionaries traveled on the Silk Road through Kashmir, the Hindu Kush regions, and parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan to bring the Buddhist religion to other societies. Also, can we just take a look at something really quick? The land of temple. So, rich religious heritage filled with numerous temples and shrines, religious monuments that hold cultural significance, spiritual significance. It is often referred to as the land of temples, including Hindu, and Buddhist temples. We're going to lock in just for one more quick second. Those of you watching on the phone version of this, we're not going to lock in for you guys, but I just want to talk about this for a quick second. Unblurry myself. Lock in, camera, god damn it. Lock in. Lock in. There we go. Now I'm locked in. Hindu and Buddhist temples coexisting together. There's two countries in the world right now that are not Tai-Ching together right now. They're not. There are two countries right now. One of these countries might not, I think there different people across the world are not acknowledging these countries. Some acknowledge one, some acknowledge the other. But there are two countries that are not getting along the way the Hindus and the Buddhists are. I'm just saying, maybe you could take a note. All I'm saying is that in Kathmandu, there's a synergy happening. There's a mandala circle of life sort of unity that's going on that's not happening, I don't know, somewhere nearby Egypt or wherever that place is. Somewhere, with a Russian influence and an American influence. Somewhere with probably a wealth of matzo balls, I would imagine. That's all I'm saying. There's just not a lot of peace and synergy going on over there. Okay. Let's go back to the mandala really quick. Now, is this only Buddhist? That's what it said, right? Buddhist art. Okay, so there are three types of mandalas. The sand mandala. Well, I'm going to get these for reference. Images, the sand mandala. The healing mandala. Whenever I see a rich Indian dude, I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. Okay, we got the mandalas. The sand mandala is a big piece of artwork that takes weeks to complete. The healing mandala is used for meditation practices. The teaching mandala is used by monks to represent particular moments within a spiritual or religious journey. What is mandala in art? A mandala in art is a geometric set of patterns, colors, and shapes. It is most often presented in a circle, but can also appear as a square. The patterns emanate from the center of the mandala. What does it symbolize? It symbolizes the universe. Its repeated pattern, colors, and shapes are meant to show the universality of the human race and the connectedness of societies and nature. And that's all I got. Oh, and they gave us a little mandala to color in. Isn't that nice? They're like, listen, we know the person who's going to visit this website likes arts and crafts, okay? That's my least favorite part of my job right now. A large portion of my job is like folding up papers and mailing it to people. And just folding up a piece of paper and like writing an address and sending it is arts and crafts. It's literally what it is. Like, it's exactly the same as in like middle school when they're like, oh, well, we're gonna make a cube in geometry. And I'm like, ugh, this is demeaning. I don't know why it feels demeaning. It just feels so dumb and simple. It's like a waste of time. Like a robot should be able to do this. Especially when I can do it electronically. I'm just complaining about my job. I'm sorry. The sand mandala. So they're making them out of... But why do they have to be made out of sand? Why is the sand mandala made... Wait, destroyed after use? What does that mean? Why was it destroyed after it was completed? The Tibetan Buddhists sweep up the sand symbolizes the impermanence of existence. Pouring sand into water disperse the healing energies of the mandala throughout the world. That's very interesting. Wow. Wow. Okay, that got to me. I felt that. I definitely... Why is there like Chinese stuff on my screen right now? What is going on? But I feel that. Hold on. The creating something so intricate and beautiful and then destroying it symbolizes the impermanent nature of life. There's some... I don't know why, but that just like hit me right here in the soul. And I'm just like, it's so true. It's so based. Wow. Okay. All right. This seems like the kind of guys that could get along with people who believe another religion. Are Tibetan monks tolerant? Tolerant of other religion? I misspelled that. Buddhists can live and work with other religionists without any discrimination. Although Buddhists were divided into different sects nearly 2,000 years ago, so far they've never had any sectarian violence or discrimination among themselves in any part of the world. Okay. I wonder if I can get like a Tibetan monk talking. A Monk's Guide to Happiness. Perfect. This is what I wanted. I have to make sure... This might get cut, but I'm going to try and make sure that I transform this enough so that it doesn't. Yeah, the music can't be in there.
Try another year, and I went into a...
Oh my god, he's British! Oh my god. Look at his eyebrows. Those are not Tibetan eyebrows, man. Those are some hardy Welsh caterpillars.
9-month-long solitary retreat.
Okay.
And everyone thought I was crazy, and I would go crazy, but I tried it, and it seemed to help, because during those 9 months, I started to study and meditate on the notion of compassion. And I'm not saying it made me into a suddenly compassionate person, but it...
I will point something out about those solitary retreats. There is a lesson that I believe would be learned there that I learned through my own kind of experimentation in my own travels, in my own, journey to join the Iceman. Oh yeah, we haven't gotten to the Iceman yet. I'll explain him. But when you stop talking to people, like when you start to retreat inward, something does happen, like as you described, this sort of compassion and generosity you have for other people grows, because when you stop talking to people, I'm gonna go back to the mountaintop. When you stop talking to people, they kind of are trapped in their own world, is what it feels like. They become trapped in their own cycle, and you are a part of it by interacting with them. Once you join that sort of momentum that they have with their life, it changes you. You start to absorb some of that momentum within yourself. I think that's what expectations are, and sort of comparison. And so when you stop comparing yourself to other people, and you stop trying to meddle in other people's life by being silent, like as this guy's describing, you become very, very locked in on what's going on with you, as well as what's going on with others from an island standpoint. You start to take an aerial perspective of all right, I have all this shit happening to me, but at a certain point, the stuff that's happening to you is easy. You don't really, unless you have a mental health issue, I found that I was just am I eating? Am I drinking? Am I sleeping? Am I okay? Am I meeting the people that I love often enough. Versus like when you interact with other people, you're just caught up in their shit, and it's awful. I feel like I had a point to this, but let's just jump back to the Buddhist, this guy who actually knows how to be happy. Oh yeah, he's talking. That's just one thing I learned by being a little bit more solitary, about like pushing away from others and kind of becoming an island. We're going back to the mountaintop. I remember what I was going to talk about. I remember. Fucking the when I was meditating for an hour a day when I was like 18, 19, I started to, and I talked to someone who meditates a lot about this, I sort of felt disconnected from everybody. I egotistically started to think that I had reached some level of enlightenment, which is weird because I'm like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way I could have become enlightened at 18 or 19 unless if I was like the Dalai Lama or I don't even know what that is. But unless if I was some sort of high-level spiritual teacher, which is once again the ego talking. The ego going like, oh, you're so good at this. You must be a leader. You must be someone really important. But I think all it did really is it kind of gave me, and this sounds even more egotistical, but like a godlike perspective, because I could kind of look at life and other people's lives as is, as well as my own. Like I could see other people's problems without me being involved. I could view my emotions in even a disconnected way, because when the way I was meditating, where I cleared my mind and I tried my best to think nothing and feel nothing, I became very aware of what nothingness was and how much was flourishing within me, how much of a robust experience I was having being alive, how much I felt when I saw other people, when I ate food, the hunger, the desire to, showering to me is like another sort of meditative experience where like you're making yourself clean. And it's like it feels spiritual, especially when you feel clean. Not just getting clean. You can be clean and not feel clean. But the process of feeling clean through and through is very nice. I like that. Like I said, I'm low on sleep, so if I'm just saying bullshit, leave a comment down below.
It made me ask questions. It made me start to ask questions. What are we here for? What are we doing on this planet? What's my role? What could I do? And I started to realize that if I stayed a monk and learnt more about the mind, I might be able to help other people with their minds, particularly because I'd had such a struggle myself.
But isn't help kind of an egotistical thing? Not to say that it's a good thing to help people. But isn't it also kind of egotistical to say, like, people need me? People need my help? I think it's an acknowledgement of the human condition to say that other people need other people. Whether it's help or just common interaction, people need one another. And I'll just let him talk. I'm sorry.
With very severe anxiety disorder and depression, I thought, well, maybe I can work through this and then show and help others to do the same. I didn't imagine myself going around giving lectures or writing books or anything like that. I just thought in a simple way, maybe I can be of benefit. And so
what's this cameraman doing?
After that retreat, I decided
He's like, look at all these whites.
to take the vows to be a monk.
Look at all these nervous whites who need help.
And that was 26 years ago. Here I am. And what happened was my monastery asked me to start giving classes and giving courses. And this was way before the sort of big trend in mindfulness. So I was a little bit...
To have a monastery ask you to give courses is kind of interesting. I think that when people get together, they sort of form some level of hive mind. Like, if you just look at how you interact with your coworkers... If you have 10 coworkers, that's 10 people working towards a common goal. Like, I think you stop being an individual at that point, and you are now working as a restaurant or an office or something. you've become like a steam engine or something. Like you have a track, the track is time, and you need to produce, or you need to, do whatever that job is. Whether you're producing food as a restaurant or you're conducting a service, there has to be an in and out that's happening. The people that receive the funds and the people that produce and distribute the product. And so it's interesting to hear this guy say that he is essentially a product of the monastery. That even people who have disconnected from the world the way that they have are now offering a product. That's kind of weird, right? That kind of goes against some of the stuff that fell out of focus. Some of the stuff that I was saying, and even some of the stuff that he's saying.
Bit adventurous. I went into prisons and
I don't think I listened to what he said.
hospitals and drug rehab centers and just started giving classes, and people seemed to benefit. And my own practice was starting to grow. I mean, I was learning while teaching. I still am learning. And then I worked like that for about 12 years.
Hold on. One more thing. Sorry to keep interrupting this guy. If the monastery embraces the impermanence of life in existence, why is it that the monastery itself, like I said, like if you consider the monastery an individual, the same way a corporation or a restaurant is acknowledged as an individual business-wise. It's not. I know it's not really an individual, but let's, for the sake of this argument, say it is. Let's say a restaurant or an office or a monastery is its own organism that has an in and an out, a give and a take, a way to receive what it needs to survive and put something out into the universe. That's almost like... Sorry. I got caught up in my explanation. What did he say?
For my whole life. And that was 26 years ago. Here I am. And what happened was my monastery asked me to start giving classes and giving courses. And this was way before the sort of big trend in mindfulness. So I was a little bit adventurous. I went into prisons and hospitals and drug rehab centers and just started giving classes, and people seemed to benefit. And my own practice was starting to grow. I mean, I was learning while teaching. I still am learning.
He's like that shark. Hold on. What's that fish that cleans the shark? A cleaner Ross. You'd be hard-pressed to find any fish daring enough to voluntarily hop on top of a predator's mouth, but it's precisely what a humble fish called the cleaner Ross does. Those fearless fish swim directly into a shark's imitating teeth-filled mouth without so much as a second thought, and the sharks love it. So, So that's kind of what this guy is.
And then
The reason why I say that is because he's jumping directly into prisons and people with mental disorders, and he's trying and essentially healing them from an issue that's not directly biological. Or when I say biological, I mean like medical problem. Are mental conditions considered a biological problem?
worked like that for about 12 years, and then decided to go again into retreat through the advice of my teacher and through my own inclination. And that's when I did that more extreme retreat that you heard about in the introduction, the four-year-long retreat. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's a very traditional retreat that lasts for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. But in my monastery, we follow 2 lineages of Buddhism, so putting them together, we have a 4-year retreat. So it was 4 years on a remote Scottish island with 20 other monks. You can't speak to each other much, and in fact, in the second year, you take a vow of total silence for 5 months. And the main thing about the retreat is that you really are in retreat. I mean, you have no contact with the outside world at all. We didn't even have electricity. We had a generator that came on at night so we could see our way around. But basically there was nothing, no contact with the outside, and very, very intensive, meditating all day. It was probably the most unhappy period of my entire life, because what happened to me was all of that panic and anxiety came back full force. I'd sort of suppressed it for 12 years. And now I'm standing in a corner, backed into the corner with my own mind, and it was horrible. I started to have panic attacks again. And I started to oscillate between very extreme panic and very, very, very deep depression. And I felt like a complete failure because I'd been a monk for 12 years, and now I'm in this sort of so-called advanced retreat and supposed to be, I don't know, levitating or whatever, and actually I'm just crying. So the first 2 years of that retreat, the first half was extremely painful. But what happened during the retreat was I had another meltdown. These meltdowns are quite good for you, actually, because what happened to me was I completely broke down in the middle of the retreat and got to the stage where I thought, I'm going to have to leave, or if I stay, I'm going to have to somehow resolve this. And so through enormously strong help from my retreat master, Lama Yeshe, I managed to stay and managed to learn how to give compassion to that part of my mind that was so tormented. And there was a kind of energetic shift in that the revulsion and the horror towards myself started to change into acceptance. I was using the meditation now in a much more effective way. I think I'd used meditation to run away from myself before. And I know many people do that, and I can understand why. But it doesn't work. At some point you catch up with yourself, and that's what happened. So I started to see how the meditation practice could help me to engage compassionately with this part of myself that I'd always found repulsive and always wanted to get rid of. And so the second half of the retreat was very different. I really started to get into it, and I started to really discover how you can train in happiness as a skill. It's a skill of the mind. And for me, I'm not saying it's like this for everybody, but for me it was very much about learning to engage with the parts of yourself you don't like, the fear, the anxiety, the horror, and meeting that in a loving way, happiness starts to grow because the resistance drops away. So when I came out of that retreat in 2009, I came to London and really noticed how unhappy people seemed. Not in a sort of judgy way. I wasn't going around saying that everyone's miserable, but I just was sort of getting into working again, teaching, talking to people, and I started to just see how people have become more impatient with their own feelings. And of course, technology has a big part to play in that. When I came out of retreat, everybody's face was glued to an iPhone. That smartphone revolution happened during those 4 years, and also all the social media networks were invented during that time. So I came out to a very different landscape. And one of the things I noticed most strongly was that people are...
That sounds trippy. To come back and like everything's different. Like I had a conversation with this guy I work with. His name's Brendan Creasy. Let me see if I can find him. Creasy? Wait, nope, wrong one. This guy. So this is Brendan Creasy. I work with him. He's been a comedian for a really long time. I think he's been in Portland for 3 years. He does a bunch of different like stuff. He does stuff all the time. Whoa, he used to be bald. That's wild. So he was telling me yesterday he has a 17-year plan. He has a 17-year plan. And that's wild to me. Like, imagine having a 17-year plan, man. Like, imagine being able to have some level of foresight to be like, I'm going to be there in 17 years. And I realized talking to him that so he has a disability. And we were talking a little bit about that, how cruel the world is for him right now. I didn't say, that's what I felt. I didn't say, like, the world's so cruel to you. He has a really difficult time, like, both staying self-sufficient as well as getting the help he needs. Because he hasn't qualified for disability yet. He has to make a certain level of income to get health insurance through the state or federally. I get my health insurance through my work, so I don't know how to get it. And he can't make any more than he currently makes, or else he'll lose his insurance, which he needs. And he just has very small goals, which was very enlightening to me talking to him. His goals are like, I want to do the comedy competition and just move up. Just go up once. Not win, just move up. I just want to move up. And I want to do it every year, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I realize sometimes I feel like I'm kind of like Sisyphus rolling the ball up the hill with this podcast and with, the YouTube videos I'm putting out, the clips, the editing, the streaming, the going out and doing shows and all this bullshit. I mean, the shows are fun. I like doing the shows, but like all this bullshit on top of comedy that I have to do when I really just don't want to have a job, and it's more of a job than I've ever had or ever wanted. And he just seems kind of content with it. He's just like, yeah. I mean, I'll probably still be working here when I'm 60, because he's 43 now, and in 17 years he wants to be doing yachts. What am I thinking of? Cruises. He wants to be a cruise ship comedian. And he's like, dude, think about it. They pay for your room. They pay for your food. You just eat on a cruise and you do your performance. And sometimes it's PG-13. Sometimes it's totally clean. So they have very specific requirements. And I realized that ultimately, although he makes very small goals, that goal is technically loftier than mine. Like my goal is only to be able to make a living doing stand-up. I just want to make like $80,000 a year was kind of my goal, and has been my goal. Like I just want to be satisfied doing this. Like whether I have to still make videos, that's fine. But if I could do as much stand-up comedy as I possibly can and all that I want, I think I'd be happy. And I think if I am doing it that much, I'd have the opportunity to refine the craft and get really good, which is the other thing I want. Like I want to get so good at stand-up that like people, that Netflix or whatever big comedy distributor enjoys my stuff and says, hey, you need to share this with people. Like Bo Burnham's journey. Obviously his fucking like super astronomical, going straight to the top. But yeah. I didn't think we were going to get this deep. Didn't feel like we were going to get this deep on this podcast, man.
Feeling, invaded by information all the time. We used to have a different relationship with information. We could go towards the information. Now it comes to us. And so the news feeds are basically stoking everyone's cortisol levels and making people more anxious. Oh, and then I noticed that when you get on a train now, the first thing they say is, if you see something suspicious, phone this number. So as soon as you arrive somewhere, you're immediately told all the things that are horrible things that are going to happen. And then we also have this huge rise in political movements that use fear to win votes. We all know what that is about. And so there's a huge level of anxiety in our culture now that I don't think has ever been so strong before. And so that, of course, made me much more committed to my work, which is all about teaching mindfulness to people, very much outside of a religious environment. I'm not interested in converting people to Buddhism or anything like that. I'm interested in helping schools and colleges and businesses and all kinds of people from all walks of life learn to practice meditation techniques. But one thing I noticed really strongly when I started to teach people again was that their impatience became a problem in the meditation training. In that people meditate and then are waiting for something to happen immediately. And that's worse than it's ever been. It's very interesting how when somebody decides to learn...
That's very interesting. When I was getting into meditation, one thing that I would say is like, because he just made me think, like, do I wait for stuff to happen when I meditate? And I kind of do. I do have expectations for what's going to happen when I meditate, but only because I could typically predict what would happen. Like, if I'm meditating the way I used to, within 10 minutes of the meditation, my body would drop off. So I would sort of feel that separation where, like, I'm no longer I'm no longer, I can't, like, feel my bed anymore, you know? Like, I can't feel that I'm lying down. I can't feel my bed. I'm just sort of experiencing time, like just consciousness and time. Because I can't feel, like, the whatever's going on in the room. Like, I stop being able to feel temperature even. And I start to ignore my heartbeat, and I'm still kind of struggling with thoughts. If I can get 20 minutes in, I'm pretty close to like stopping thinking, or at least like I'm still kind of battling with it at that point. But anything longer than 20 minutes was always really tough, and I feel like that's when I would get into like these sort of thought wars in my head, where like I'm just like sort of grappling with my emotions and what I was dealing with. Like the big thing that I dealt with and settled in meditation that I talk about is that my boss hated me at the time. Like I used to be super neurotic. I still am. I used to be like very, very like small. Like I have a lot of confidence now, but I used to have no confidence. At least by comparison. People still tell me I need to be more confident, but like I have way more confidence than I used to have. And when my boss hated me, it's just like fuck, because at the time I felt like my family hated me. And so I would work and my boss hated me, and then I would see my family and my family hated me, and I couldn't really hang out with my friends because they had their own stuff going on. And I worked right across from the comedy club, and so I'd always just think like, and I'd started comedy by this time, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And I'd listen to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan meditates, and I was just kind of stewing on it about like how much hate I felt was directed towards me, and that I couldn't do anything about it. And I came to the realization of I can't do anything about it, and it sort of started to deflate this whole problem, because I no longer needed to combat with it. Like, how do I get these people to like me? How do I please all these people that hate me so they don't hate me anymore? And you just stop. Just stopped giving into their hatred. And I even felt the shift at work. Like my boss would talk to me, and it's almost like she didn't. I think when you try and please other people, they feel like they have an allowance of how much they can kind of hit you, how much how much shit they can give you. And that's unfortunate that we're like this as people, but I think it's a normal response of like, okay, I can kind of use this person a little bit as like an outlet. And I think everyone does that. And I mean, I certainly do. People have to be able to receive that, and I take very close note of when I do it to other people. Like I've done it to my fiance, for sure. For sure I've done it to her. I'm not perfect. I don't want to say I'm a bad person, but I'm not a necessarily good one. And I've definitely been cruel and rude and mean and angry and fearful, and I've attacked like on a level. Obviously I've never been like fuck you or all this. But I haven't been. There are times when I haven't been good to her, for sure. And even more so to other people. even more so to people that I don't love. I've been really cruel to them. And I mean, that's why I like boxing, because that's the only avenue where I can fully, like if we talk about the shadow self, I can fully unite, like the best things about me and the worst things about me can combine to become something different. And it's only when I box people can I try and use the smartest parts of my brain as well as my most violent instincts, which seems to be like the two things that clash all the time within myself. And now they're not clashing, they're uniting. And they're coming to a spear point, like a sharpened, honed technique. And it feels so freeing, honestly. And when I was younger, the only way I could get to that point was sex. But that's not because sex isn't violent, but it's definitely extremely physical, and it embraces, like, when you're doing it with someone, you're both embracing your more primal urges. What was I saying? I got kind of sidetracked. Started thinking about
And meditation, they make
started thinking about it.
this shift from external to internal, in that they make that decision that happiness is really a mind state. It's a state of being. It's something within. So
Sorry, I remember what it is. It's the expectations of what's going to happen when you meditate. I definitely expected. I think that's what shocked me when I talked about becoming enlightened or feeling enlightened. Is my expectation was like my ego saying like, "Oh, I could become enlightened," and then I felt like I did. I felt like I had conquered my emotions entirely. That I could make and I can't do this anymore. Which just kind of like revealed the amount of discipline I had achieved, like the level of meditation I had reached, when now I am in no way in control of my emotions or my body or my urges. Like, it's night and day. The fact that I was a so much more disciplined and powerful person at not 17, 18 or 19 versus 26 is, I mean, it says a lot. And I try and I'm kind of like part-timing meditation, where like for 30 seconds I'll just like apply some of the tricks I know. But that doesn't really, I don't think I am achieving the maximum amount of benefits.
So if we meditate, we're learning to stop grabbing onto the happiness around us and instead finding it within. That's a very interesting shift. But what then happens is the person starts to look for happiness in the
I made fun of this guy, but this guy's spitting
find
fire.
it outside, so now let's find it inside. So we start to look for it in the meditation. And then we get more unhappy because we're grabbing onto a feeling all the time. And I think this is another thing that's been exacerbated by our use of technology, is that nowadays we're very obsessed with instant feelings. We want to have our senses stimulated constantly. That's how the TV programs we watch manipulate our senses, the movies, the social media that we scroll through. It's very much about exciting the senses, and we've got into a state where we think something is only working if we feel something from it. We have to feel something all the time. So then, of course, people learn meditation and they try and feel something in their meditation. Let me tell you my own story with this, is that when I first became a monk, I definitely got into that, in that I was meditating and actually getting more unhappy the more meditation I did. I remember in the first year of being a monk, I would do a lot of meditation. I really got into it, and I would do it all through the day. I would be working in the monastery, but then I'd keep sitting down and meditating throughout the day. And I started to go around with this kind of sinking feeling in my heart. It's almost as if the more meditation I did, the more miserable I became, and the more let down I started to feel. And I went to my teacher, and he said, "Well, it seems to me that you're meditating like a drug addict." And this was quite a shocking thing to hear, but it really rang true, because I realized that what I'd been doing was sitting down to meditate and then thinking, okay, I've done 10 minutes, when am I going to get a buzz? When am I going to get a hit from this? When am I going to come up on my meditation? because that's all I'd known in terms of happiness, is little hits of pleasure. So I assumed now meditation should give me a little hit of pleasure. And the problem is, the more you're looking for that hit of pleasure, the more you are creating the absence of pleasure. Because the mind that thinks I want to be happy is the mind that thinks I am not happy. The more I want to feel happy, the more I'm telling myself I lack that feeling. And because everything in our mentality is a habit that perpetuates more of its own nature, that just grows. The more I want happiness, the more I'm building a feeling of lack. Of course, this is a part of human psychology that advertisers know how to manipulate. They always make us feel there's something else out there we'll never...
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that stuff. I'm gonna need to wrap up the episode soon. We spent a lot of time on that. I feel like I spent a lot of time oversharing. Where do we go from here, man? Let's go to the Iceman. I should definitely talk about fucking Iceman. Wait, this guy's dead? Wim Hof. Yeah, that's his name.
At Shutterstock, we...
Fucking ads. I do not endorse Shutterstock. Iceman! Iceman! Oh, shit. Skip the ad.
No, what the fuck? My lips are alright.
A little bit about this guy did. Iceman achievements. He climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in shorts, running half a marathon above the Arctic Circle barefoot, and standing in a container while covered with ice cubes for more than 112 minutes. Didn't he also... Wim Hof. Wim Hof swimming under the ice. God damn it. On the 16th of March 2000, Hof set a Guinness World Record farthest swim under ice in his second attempt with a distance of 118 feet. Hof's first attempt on the day before failed when he began his swim without goggles, and his corneas froze solid and blinded him. Yeah, I think that happened this time too. I think one of his eyes froze. Jesus, can you imagine that? Your eyes froze. And yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't look like he's in Nepal. Wim Hof breathing technique. We'll wrap up the episode with this. Breathing is perhaps the most fundamental human action. It catalyzes the critical mechanisms of oxygen supply, which in turn keep all processes in your body going every second of the day. Doing something as simple as modifying your breathing has a direct and profound impact on your physiology. Here we explain how to practice Wim Hof's method, the Wim Hof breath. Can you teach me how to breathe so that I can talk better? Here we explain how to practice Wim Hof method breathing exercises and why this is such an effective tool to keep down stress, improve sleep, and do many other wonderful things for your health and well-being. It's great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, step 1, get comfortable. Comfortable. Either sitting or lying down, shit. Ideally wearing loose clothing, yes. And making sure your belly can expand freely, Take 30 deep breaths. Oh, wait, hold on. There's a way to do this. My bad. Deeply inhale through your nose or mouth while pushing your belly outward. Then your lungs are full. Let your breath go through your mouth with force. Oh, without force. Without force. I can't read. The retention phase. After the final exhalation, hold your breath until you feel the urge to breathe again. Draw one giant breath once again, letting your belly expand fully. Hold that breath for 15 seconds, then let go. Okay. So the goal is to get to one big round. You know, I had started learning some of this stuff when I was doing a lot of yoga. I have a friend who's like very kind of like egotistical. I just feel like everything he does, he's just like, I'll be like, oh, I was getting into meditation. He's like, yeah, I used a sleep deprivation chamber or what are those floating chambers? It's like, yeah, I did that. I meditate. And it's like, no, I do it every day. And he's like, yeah, I have tons of meditation practices I do every day. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, thanks, man. And I showed him my like yoga routine. And he's like, well, you should do this with a weight vest. And it's like, that's not the point. It's not the point. But he was actually extremely knowledgeable about some of this stuff. And it was really hard for me because I didn't have I had like no cardio at the time. And so we did like a kettlebell routine, and I was just like fucking gassed the whole time. Okay. I think that's enough. I'm done. Podcast over. Love you all. Bye.